The wind howled through the frozen forest, a sound so raw and ancient it seemed to tear the sky in two. Snow fell in thick, relentless waves, swallowing trees, trails, and time itself. In the heart of that white silence, half buried in drifts, lay two motionless figures. Officer Sarah Collins and her K9 partner, Rex. Sarah's uniform was torn, her radio cracked beside her, its screen dark. Her lips were pale, her breaths shallow, each exhale vanishing into mist before it could warm her. Hours ago, this had been a routine manhunt. A suspect fleeing through the woods after a burglary gone wrong. But somewhere between the pines and the frozen creek, everything had shifted. The suspect turned, ambushed them, and vanished like smoke. Now, Sarah lay bound by the very rope meant to restrain him, her strength fading with every passing second. Rex lay beside her, his German shepherd frame trembling beneath a coat of frost. Blood stained his shoulder, his breathing uneven, but his eyes, sharp, loyal, resolute, never left her face. Even as the cold crept into his bones, he had crawled closer in her weakest moment, pressing his paw gently over her wrist, like a silent vow. I'm here. I won't leave you. They had no signal, no help. No one knew they were missing. And in that endless white wilderness, hope felt as fragile as a snowflake. Miles away, in a small town blanketed by the same storm, a little girl named Emily stepped out of her family's cabin, clutching her stuffed bunny and wrapped in a thin pink jacket, far too light for the cold. She shouldn't have been out there, not alone, not in a blizzard that had already downed power lines and closed roads. But she'd heard something, faint, almost swallowed by the wind, a whimper, then a bark, then silence. "Doggy," she called, her voice small and brave. "Where are you?" No answer, just the whisper of snow against pine. But Emily didn't go back. She stepped forward, her tiny boots sinking deep into the drifts, her footprints vanishing behind her like secrets. She didn't know she was walking into a nightmare. She only knew someone needed her. The storm thickened. Trees loomed like silent giants. Wind bit at her cheeks until they burned. Still, she pressed on, guided only by that fading sound, by a pull she couldn't explain, only feel. Then, through the blinding white, she saw them. Two dark shapes, half buried in snow. Her breath caught. She ran. "Hello?" she whispered, dropping to her knees. No response. She brushed snow from the woman's face, revealing a pale cheek, closed eyes, a badge glinting weakly on her chest. Officer Sarah Collins. Beside her, the German shepherd lifted his head, eyes meeting Emily's with exhausted trust. "You're hurt," Emily breathed. Rex whined softly. Emily's heart hammered, but she didn't run. She dropped her bunny, unzipped her little red jacket, and laid it gently over Sarah's chest. "It's okay," she whispered. "You'll be warm now." She turned to Rex, brushing frost from his fur. "Good boy," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "You have to stay awake." Then she saw the radio, cracked, silent. She grabbed it, pressed every button she could find. Static hissed, thin, desperate. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't know how to use it. She didn't know their names. But she knew this: she wouldn't leave them. She held the radio to her ear and spoke the only words she knew. "Hello, please help. The lady is sleeping, and her dog is hurt." Her voice cracked, swallowed by the storm. But Rex heard her. He lifted his head, barked, once sharp, urgent. "Do it again," Emily urged. He barked again, and again. Between her quiet pleas and his fading calls, the forest wasn't silent anymore. And far away, through the trees, something answered. Sirens. Faint at first, then stronger. Emily's face lit up through her tears. "They're coming," she whispered, clutching Rex's paw. "You're going to be okay." That night, a 6-year-old's courage burned brighter than any fire. A heartbeat of warmth in the coldest storm. Rescue teams pushed through the snow, following the weak signal, shouting into the white void until they saw them. A child, curled between a fallen officer and her dog, her arms shielding them from the wind. "Dear God," a paramedic whispered. They rushed forward. Blankets, heat packs, oxygen. Sarah's pulse was weak, but steady. Rex's wound was deep, but he was breathing. And Emily, frost in her hair, hands blue with cold, blinked up at the lights and murmured, "Did I do good?" "You did more than good, sweetheart," a rescuer said, voice thick with tears. "You saved them." Minutes later, her parents came running, sobbing as they pulled her into their arms. The helicopter arrived at dawn, blades cutting through the icy sky, carrying Sarah and Rex to the hospital. Below, the rescuers stood in silence, because they'd just witnessed something rare. Hope, kept alive by the smallest heart. Weeks passed, the snow melted, crocuses pushed through the thawing earth. But the story of that night didn't fade, it grew. News channels called it the miracle in the blizzard. Schools invited Emily to speak. Strangers sent letters, toys, handmade quilts. She never asked for fame. She just wanted to know they were okay. One afternoon, she walked into Sarah's hospital room, wearing a tiny police cap someone had given her for bravery. Rex, now healing, his coat regaining its shine, lifted his head and barked softly. "Rex!" Emily cried, running to him. He pressed his nose into her hands, tail thumping weakly. Sarah smiled through tears. "You saved us, sweetheart," she said. "We're only here because of you." She reached into her pocket and handed Emily a small silver badge, polished and shining. Engraved on it were the words, "Honorary K9 Friend." Emily's eyes sparkled. "Now I'm part of your team," she giggled. Sarah nodded. Forever. Outside, snow began to fall again. Gentle, peaceful, beautiful. And as Rex lay at Emily's feet, Sarah whispered, "Sometimes the smallest hearts carry the biggest courage." The camera faded on their laughter, on 3 lives bound by frost, fear, and a choice made in the dark. Because love doesn't need strength, it just needs to show up. And on that frozen night, a little girl in a pink jacket did more than save 2 heroes. She reminded the world that courage isn't measured in years, but in heartbeats. And hers, it never stopped beating. Even when the world went silent, even when no one was watching, even when the storm tried to bury them all, she stayed, she spoke, she loved. And in the end, that was enough.